No problem. Sorry about that. Right over there. All right. It is now 4:04 p.m. I would like to call the Thursday, March 5th Buckman Direct Diversion Board meeting to order. May I please get a roll call?
Here.
The galley here.
Here.
I am here. Thank you so much. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from staff or the committee? And if not, can I get a motion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda. We don't have anything on there. Moving on to approval of the minutes from the February 5th Buckman Direct Diversion Board meeting. Are there any changes from staff or the committee? Not going to get a motion?
I'll second it then.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then on to matters from the public. Are there any members of the public here who would like to present us with matters? Not seeing any either. And there's no one on the Zoom. People Zoom on in or no? Don't believe so. Okay. On to presentations. We have the monthly update on BDD operations. Matt Sandoval, BDD operations superintendent, is here to present. On to you, Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair Cassett, members of the board. I'll be presenting the BDD operations report for the month of February 2026. BDD diversions and deliveries have averaged in million gallons per day as follows. Raw water diversions, 4.9 MGD. Raw water delivery to Las Campanas at Booster Station 2A, 0. Drinking water deliveries through Booster Station 4A and 5A, 4.67 million gallons per day. BDD contributed 70% of the drinking water to the city and county for the month of February 2026. And I will stand for questions.
Any questions from the board? Member Schmidt-Peterson?
Just one quick question. Matt, I don't know that I saw it here. I'm sure it's in here. But for the operations the last 2 months, are you diverting native Rio Grande water or San Juan Chama water?
Thank you, Member Schmidt-Peterson. So we were calling for 1.5 million gallons per day of SJC stored water, and then the rest is native.
Okay. Thanks. I guess I just add one thing there. I should, given you what's in your report for other parts too, is this spring looks exactly like last spring. And on the Rio Grande, my expectation would be very low flows again this summer, with the need for San Juan Chama water there, but perhaps not native Rio Grande water. So just a heads up.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're free. Moving on to 7B, report from the BDD facilities manager. We have Bradley Prada here to present. Brad, on to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, board members. This report covers our progress on key facility projects, procurement, and staffing as of March 2026. We are seeing movement on our major repair and replacement projects. The RFP for the PLC control system upgrade is moving forward as expected. We have finished the proposal review and expect to select a vendor within the next month. I'm also happy to report that the cyclical replacement for the granular activated carbon has been successfully completed, which keeps our treatment performance at its highest level. Moving on to the design rebuild project, the RFI was posted back in January, and the posting period is 60 days. At the same time, our project team, including ACOM, Right Water, and staff from the city county, are deep into a feasibility study. We plan to share that completed study with the board at the April meeting. At that time, we will present the findings for your review and input. It is important to me that the board has a chance to review the study's direction before we move into an RFQ phase. Our projected timeline for the rest of this year is clear. We expect to post the RFQ for a 30-day period in or before the end of May. That will lead into a technical review and selection process from June through August. If the schedule holds, we are hopeful to bring a contract back to the board for the 30% design phase this September. We've already drafted the RFQ to ensure there is no dead time once the board review is complete. Finally, onto the staffing front, we are working closely with city staff to fill our open positions. We are now down to only 3 remaining vacancies, and we have strong leads on those. Reaching this level of staffing has been a massive undertaking, and I want to thank the team for their persistence in making sure that we are properly resourced to meet our goals. Thank you, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from members of the board? No, yes, no? Vice Chair Green?
April.
Thank you, Chair. We're pretty close.
Okay.
We're pretty close. I'm very hopeful that we can bring it forward.
I appreciate a critical path, right? You know, we've heard about how this has lingered and we've 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And so let's try to have a timeline. I like seeing, oh, we have September to look forward to and all those things so that we can sort of keep some accountability here. And anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments at this time? No. Thank you so much, Brad. Okay, moving on to item 7C, presentation of Rio Grande Water Quality Calendar Year 2026 Work Plan pursuant to BDDB Resolution Number 2022-2. We have Jim Reisterer. Did I do that correctly? Oh my gosh, thank you. Who is a consultant with GZA Geo Environmental Inc., DBA Glorietta Geoscience, and then of course Kyle Harwood from our legal counsel for Buckman Direct Diversion. And I will hand it on over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and I really appreciate that. Nobody ever gets my name right on the first try. So,
You know, I'm usually referred to as cassette. So I understand the pain. So
okay. Well, I appreciate it. So hopefully you all have the water quality work plan was part of your packet. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I just like to touch on the items that we see as important going forward. The work plan is set up with 3 tiers. So tier 1 being the more immediate items, tier 2 things that we expect to work on this year, but maybe lower priority, and then tier 3 being things that are sort of at the bottom of the list, but we want to have them included in case they become more active. Excuse me. So number 1 on our list for tier 1 issues is the memorandum of understanding with Lannel. That was signed in December. For 2026, what we're anticipating is just continuing forward with DOE to monitor discharges of stormwater and implement changes to the camera configuration at the 110.7 gauge. We did meet with them in January to look at that camera configuration and have been working with them to get that camera selected. And Kyle's been following up with their attorney on the progress on that. And in May, we anticipate participating in the annual review, which is to review the early notification system and BDD operations and sampling program, as well as the sediment transport mitigation project. And we'll work with the BDD staff on intake sampling and LA Pueblo sediment sampling as that comes up. Our next item is the LA Pueblo Canyon Waning Limb discharge lag time determination. The purpose of this is to try and quantify the time it takes for stormwater discharges from LA Pueblo Canyon to reach and get past the BDD intake, so that the BDD operations staff has a better idea of what that time frame is where the diversion needs to be closed off after a storm event discharges from LA Public. Item 3 is broken up into 2 parts, but it's all related to the hexavalent chromium issue that I think everybody's familiar with. But part of that issue is the water rights issue. The board protested the application that went in for water rights for the treatment system. That was about 690 feet. That application is still pending, but some of the interim measures that have been proposed or implemented suggested they might need to convert up to 1,690 acre feet of water. So that application has not been filed with the state engineer, but if that's the path they have to go down to file that, we'll keep on top of that and support the board with just that application if that's what we need to get a seat at the table for that discussion. The second part of the chromium is monitoring the chromium plume migration. There's been a lot going on with the chromium plume, and there was a well that was put in. It's called the Simmer 3 well, that was drilled in 2025. Screening sample of that well came back with a hit of chromium, which suggests that plume was larger than what was expected. And then most recently in early February, NMED issued administrative orders of compliance that made the lab shut down the mitigation operations as they were currently going on along with some pretty hefty fines. So right now that's all in flux in terms of how they're going to mitigate the plume, how they're going to characterize the plume, what might need to happen with that. So we'll be here to provide support however needed, monitoring those activities as they go forward. Item number 4 under tier 1 is PFAS. For PFAS, there's just a lot going on in the regulatory world in terms of coming up with what regulatory standards are. So really, we're just going to stay focused on what those changes and rules that are coming in play are, and board apprised of that. NPDES primacy. Again, that's so that the bill to pass the Senate, NMED, or to get primacy for Mexico on water regulations. The NMED is in the process of developing the permitting rules and has petitioned the Water Quality Control Commission for public hearing spring of 2026. So we'll be keeping track of that. The most recent update on that is that the proposed regulations are going to go in front of the Water Quality Control Commission on June 8th. And the comment period for that opens on March 13th. So we'll be working to get comments on those regulations. Moving into the tier 2 issues, so the LANL and PDS permits. So this goes back to the primacy issue in some ways, but EPA has determined that LA and Pueblo Canyons are waters of the U.S. So as NPDES permits come up for renewal with LANL, we'll eye on those. And participate in public hearings at those. The site-wide environmental impact statement for LANL, which fondly referred to as the SWICE, that has been moving forward. BDD submitted comments on that draft, the draft SWICE in 2025. So we'll just keep an eye on that to see what if those comments have been implemented. And if there's follow-up. On the consent order, so this is the tier 3 issues. The LANL consent order is just a proposed actions that LANL will take, schedule laid out, how they'll do these. So we're kind of tracking those. Of interest this year in the 2026 plan, they're developing what they're calling their phase 3 investigation work plan for Pueblo Canyon and for Upper Los Alamos Pueblo Canyon. That's part of their work plan that's due in September of 2026. And that is of interest to the board because LA Canyon does. We'll keep an eye on that, see what that work plan is looking like. Item 9 on our list is the Clean Water Act integrated report and list of impaired waters. So that list came out in February 2025. NED has been sampling the reach between Sanai and Cochiti for constituents of concern that were identified in that. And so those results are due out in sampling is going to be finished in November 6th. And results will be out in spring of 20. So we'll just and we've got the LA County MS4 permit. So that has to do with stormwater discharges from the from the Los Alamos urban area outside of the laboratory. The lab has its own stormwater permits. So the LA County's permit has expired, but has been administratively continued. So they're just operating under that permit, which means they can't add any new points of diversion. And when that permit gets up for renewal, they'll work on that moves forward. Then the last item on the list is the triennial review of state surface water quality standards. That actually wrapped up in 2026 for the last 3-year period. So we really don't anticipate we kept it in the work planning use. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Questions, comments from the board? Member Schmidt-Peterson.
Chair. Yeah, I have well, first of all, I just want to say I really like the form of the work plan that you have here where, we have these distinct areas of focus that you're working on and it kind of gives us a feel for like where are the priorities and so on. That's really good. I kind of wonder with this, there's been so much building going on and so much additional work at Lionel the last few years. I know that they're upping their manufacturing of plutonium pits and things like that. And I'm just wondering, if any of that changes or potentially changes the focus of where we should be looking. And I don't know if you guys have thought about that or not, or if there's anything to be concerned about.
Thank you, Member Schmidt-Peterson. I think that a lot of that construction is intended to be addressed by the SWICE, Site-Wide Environmental Impact Statement, and there was a lot of pressure put on the lab to start that process, and I think it's now slowed down for several reasons. But obviously, all the new facilities need to get permits consistent with federal law and state law where it applies. We have mostly been looking at the older projects and the cleanup work. That's been a frequent focus of this board's interest in the past with different members. So we do continue to monitor that. But the short answer is that I think a lot of the new projects up at the lab are intended to be covered by the SWICE. And I think it's probably good time here in Q1 of 26 for us to inquire whether we can get a little more information on how quickly the next step in that process is going to be happening. So when we get an answer back on that, we'll bring it back to Brad perhaps and include it in a facility manager's update if that's appropriate or something bigger.
That works fine for me. Thank you.
And I would also just say that your compliments about the memo really go to former counselor El Romero Worth, who had the leadership to pass the resolution that drives this memo and its structure. We're happy to take the thanks, but it's really due to her.
Always happy to give Carol credit all the time. Vice Chair Green.
You. So just to follow on your point, I know that this increased chip production is, I went to a Lano presentation today. It is not official, and so they're not making any plans about it. So then so everything that they say until they get the actual directive to do it, everything, whether it's a slice or whatever, is going to be based on things that are concrete. So when we hear that it's for real, then we have to ask those questions.
Oh, thank you.
I asked that very same question. I said, do your plans here for hiring take into effect this increase? And they said, no, we don't do those things until we actually have signed things.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes.
Could you talk a little bit more about number 3B, hexavalent chromium? Whether there's any plans to actually capture the plume and keep it from reaching the Rio Grande?
Thank you. Yeah. So what I would say on that is that, so these administrative orders of compliance that were issued to the lab by NMED, one was from the Groundwater Quality Bureau, one was from the Haz Waste Bureau, and they lay out specific things that have to be done in terms of characterizing the extent, better characterizing the extent of the plume, and where they need to drill wells and recommendations for how they need to get the waste. But I think it's essentially a directive to answer your question.
Yeah, and is Lanel cooperating?
That I can't answer. We have reached out to Lanel to request additional information about that Simmer 3 well. And I wouldn't say they weren't cooperative, but we have not been given any additional information.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else? Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Carol, because this was very, very clear and straightforward and really do appreciate it. So thank you for being here. All right. Moving on to our discussion agenda, we have one action item. It is request for approval and recommendation to Santa Fe County Board of County Commissioners and City of Santa Fe governing body to approve the fiscal year 2027 Buckman Direct Diversion operating budget and other fund contributions. We have Bradley Prada, Kurt Travers from Clifton Larson Allen presenting. So I will send it on to you guys. Whoever wants to get started with starting with the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I have been your accounting continuity support for BDD since June of 2024 for those periods when BDD's internal accounting is in transition like we are right now. I also presented last year's budget. I'll tell you when those transitions occur, budget season.
Thank you. And for any members of the public, real fast, I just want to make a quick correction. Our agenda says that we're getting the presentation of the proposed FY 2026, but this is actually the FY 2027. So the primary caption is correct, but we just want people to know. Talking about next year, not this year. Thank you.
So BDD staff are pleased to present the proposed Buckman Direct Diversion annual operating budget for fiscal year 2027, along with proposed contributions to the Major Repair and Replacement Fund. This proposed budget accounts for all projected necessary costs to meet the board's service level objectives and to continue to provide high quality water to our partners. In your packets is the 13-page summary of the fiscal year 27 budget proposal. Again, prepared using the same methodology, support files, discussions with our program directors, and with our partners as we did in prior years. Okay. So the budget memo highlights, if we look at that, the budget, we are requesting a budget approval of $9,366,000 for fiscal year 2027 operations. As partner contributions and solar rebate revenues associated with that. Fiscal year 2027 budget request, it increased by $580,000. The Major Repair and Replacement Fund is a $1,695,000 requested contribution. That is a decrease from prior year requests. 2 years ago, it's 1.9. Last year, it was about 1.8. So I'd like to call out a few areas in that budget summary. So on page 3, we have an pie chart, which sort of breaks down this expenditures. Again, it's visually, it's nice to see. You can see the largest part of that is personnel. That's about 45% of total expected costs. As Brad mentioned, we're actually staffing levels are actually increasing and getting to where they should be. So that's where those staffing levels will occur. Your other big areas are electricity costs, chemicals, and all other operating costs, which would include things like our contracts and areas like that. The next area I'd like to call out is looking at the BDD programs on page 8. And again, that brings the pie chart. What do we spend our money on? We're spending it mostly on operations, almost, again, 50% of it. Operations includes that electricity, that chemicals, things like that. So this is not just personnel costs. This is what it takes to run it. The other major component, as you would expect, is maintenance. We have administrative cost and within administrative includes our fiscal agent fee that we pay to the city for operating. If we move to page 11, that's the major repair and replacement fund proposals. At 2 parts of that, we sort of look at, what is our balance? We ended fiscal year 25 with a certain balance. If you'll remember earlier this year, we did bring a large number of projects forward into this fiscal year. We had to carry forward, I want to say it was about $2 million. And that was some discussion. We've actually spent a good amount of that money this year. We've already spent 1.7 million. As Brad mentioned, we've got the GAC project that's going to be completed. We've got another few projects that we're in bid for, the PLC SCADA project, things that will get encumbered this year. So we're actually going to almost use all of that $4 million that's coming from prior years. We're actually going to maybe not spend it, but it will be encumbered. So we didn't spend a lot last year. That's definitely changed in Brad's team, and all the staff have done a good job about getting these projects over the line. So for the fiscal year 2027 proposed contributions, again, it's about 1.7 million. It's a little bit less than last year. And I would like to call out the 3rd paragraph. And, I'll read that one. This is a little bit more of a new introduction this year. The BDD facility manager and staff, we prepare that 15-month MRR plan with preliminary estimates, working with our vendor partners. So this is something, I've been with Brad and staff, and, in January, February, we talk about what projects are coming up. It's a 15-month plan. It's a very long term. Anything that goes out in these plans are an estimate. And what we've run into is that working with the city, if we have an estimate of $65,000, but 12 months later it comes in at 69, causes problems. Because it wasn't called out at that amount. So what this is saying is, as the project schedules firm up and more exact quotes are provided, the BDD facility manager will rebalance the expected cost per project within their delegated authority. Any project quote that increases above the previously authorized 15-month MRR plan by a value exceeding the BDD facility manager's authority will be brought back to the board for authorization at the new vote. So it's in those instances where it's a few $1,000s over, Brad won't have to bring that back to you because it's within his authority to look at projects like that. So that's the new wording that's within this budget beyond previous budgets. And with that, I will stop and stand and take questions from the board.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Questions from the board? Member Green or Commissioner Green, Vice Chair Green? Justin, go ahead.
Thanks. Question about electricity. So does our solar project, is that financing for solar, or have we not achieved a basically?
So this is, we actually have 4 metered locations. And so this is the P&M bills that are doing from operating that. Now we do get refunds. We do get reduced costs from the solar project. Some of that, if you look back 5 years, electricity costs were a little bit higher. So these have been effective projects, but we do still have to pay for electricity. P&M issued a rolling rate increase in July of 2025. And that's why we do see there's an increase in projected electricity costs. The electricity budget had been flat for several years. And so we're trying to, proactively account for these rate increases that'll be occurring.
This may not be a question for you and maybe for Brad and the facilities folks, but do we have a goal of trying to get net zero and we're just not there yet? Yeah.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Vice Chair Green. Yeah, we're working towards that. Obviously there is agreements that we have with P&M that are specific to each station that we have. And so obviously we get the best benefit from solar arrays that were preemptively put in back in the day. As we've progressed through that, we've noticed that we get less and less benefit cost-wise with the solar arrays that we put in later.
Is that because they only compensate us a certain amount per megawatt because it is not tied to each? So let me ask a question, because I know that we at Santa Fe County missed our opportunity to become interested parties with the P&M acquisition. I bet you we did too.
I believe so.
That goes to Nancy. Is there any interest in asking as a large user, specifically as a user, is there any way that we can get ourselves into that negotiation to say, please treat us better or something? We have certain goals.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Green, we operate on a unique tariff with P&M, which is called 11B.
Okay.
And I think Rio Rancho is on it, and Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority is on it. Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority is in the settlement discussions. I happen to be getting a lot of those emails because I'm in as local counsel for someone else. So I've seen that they're in. I don't know what their proposals are, but I can certainly reach out to their lawyer and find out what they are doing and whether it makes sense to get involved.
Okay, because maybe they can advocate on our behalf, because if everybody under 11B is, if we're all treated equally, then that's great. We can support them in that. This is also a question for City of Santa Fe and for Santa Fe County, is that I know that we missed our shot at that, and we're having internal discussions as to if it's too late or what.
Our interests have been aligned with Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority in the past, but I will look into that. And some of 11B, of course, has to do with time of day usage, and we haven't always, had that same interest with them, but otherwise, we have had our interests in alignment. So I will check on that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Schmidt-Peterson?
Just one question, I think maybe more for Bradley or for Nancy, can you remind me of the overall process here for final approval of this proposal? Because there's steps with the city, both with staff, the city, and then I think with the council and even with the county commission. Where are we in that process at this point in time?
Thank you, Schmidt-Peterson. We will first get you guys to approve, and then each county and city will present it in the kind of a roll-up of their budget. I don't think that it breaks it down for BDD specifically. So the water department for the city of Santa Fe will present their overall budget to city council, and then that will get approved. But I don't think that's necessarily in detail what we submit.
Okay, thank you. So I guess that gets to that part of the question. I was thinking about the operating costs and the salary piece of that. What you're proposing here would be then consistent with what the water division is submitting with, to Santa Fe. So that's been already vetted so that there's no, possible conflict.
Yeah, we already have had conversation with the city on, specifically because they're our physical administrator for, let's say a COLA or things like that, so that we don't have conflicting, budgets that we both present.
Appreciate it. It'll be really interesting to see where we get with all the new staff that are there. This component of the budget probably be more completely expended. So thanks.
Absolutely.
And I have been in contact with Travis, and so he has this proposed budget, and we've already been talking about, after the board approves it, that he would be ready to present it. I think we had our timing off a little bit the last couple of years, so we'll be proactive this year.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yeah, just how much of an increase are you asking the county for?
This, so this is an interesting question. I think I didn't bring last year's report that breaks it down by partner requests. So I don't know what the percentage is for the county. I can come back to you with that number and when we do.
What's the overall percentage?
Oh, 6.6% on the operating side, and then the major repair and replacement funding is percentage wise, it's drops maybe 5%, but the operating fund is much higher, so it's weighted a little higher.
Okay. Yeah, I would like you to come back with that information.
Okay.
Member
He
Hughes,
probably needs to know as well.
Member Hughes, just for your context, the county is billed off of their projected allocation. So they tell us how much they're going to produce. And so some of these increases are based off of the county increasing their use as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board? I have one regarding the discussion around the MRR plan and how high is your authority of what you can approve when there is a difference?
0. If we have a line item in the MR&R plan and we come in, we budget for 65,000 and it comes back and it's 65,000, 66,000, we have to bring it back for your authority to sign off on that. And so that's the problem with the way it was written to begin with. Obviously, we're vetting some of these things as we move through the program. This is pretty new. It's only 3 or 4 years old. And so this year we ran into quite a few of those instances where we had a budgeted line item in the MR&R, and then we moved on and got the actual invoice for that, or the current quote, I should say. And that quote was in exceedance of that line item. And so I cannot sign without bringing it back and having your guys' approval.
Nancy, something to add?
Chair, if I can just add to that, the facilities manager's authorized authority is $60,000. It's been $60,000 for a long, long time, and it was kind of in lockstep with the city manager. Now the city manager is at what? 200,000. So we're going to bring a proposal to you in combination with the city, hopefully, because 60 doesn't do much anymore. We need to get Brad up to 200,000. So we will be bringing that to you. But I think what Brad was explaining is within the fund itself, he has not had authority. So we've gone to procurement and said, look, he's got monetary authority according to the PMFSA of $60,000. But then they said, well, the board hasn't authorized him to use that authority within the MR&R plan. So that's what we're trying to fix now. We don't know if this will fix it or not, but this is our best effort as part of the budget. But we will be bringing something that is really following and what the city is doing on authority
Mhm.
that we've seen presented and is coming back to you in March on the project manager's authority to also change scope and be able to operate within that monetary authority, hopefully increased by then.
Okay, good. That was my question because I know at the city we've had a conversation around how inefficient that is, and we meet more frequently. So I imagine that this does slow down projects a lot. And I don't really see a need for it when we've told you to go and do the thing that we would like you to do, go do the thing that we would like you to do. Obviously, if there's a budgeting issue, we have to run into that. But glad to hear that conversation will be coming because.
But Madam Chair, right now, when we say within the proposal today that the facility manager would have authority up to his monetary authority amount, that's 60,000. So then Brad could work within the MR&R fund if there was a change of 5,000 up to 60 on a project. And if the funds are there, then he would have the authority to do that. Hopefully that will work.
Great, good, glad to hear. Now kind of again, looking at how this reflects what happens at the city. I know that if there is, as long as it's not a budget adjustment request, at a budget adjustment request, the city manager still has authority up to 60,000. There has been conversation as to whether or not we should be shifting that. Where does that lie within BDD right now? I mean, obviously within line items and as things that have been budgeted, but in terms of if there's a full budget adjustment request that is needed, how does that process occur? Or do we not get to because of whatever reason?
Madam Chair, we've never really ran into that problem where we have to make that kind of adjustment.
Okay.
So, we'll see how it plays out.
So hopefully that won't happen, but maybe something for us to, keep in the back pocket just in case, something to think about. So, all right, thank you.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question because we do use T-bars, the technical one, which is moving money that you've already approved
Right.
between budget categories. But the bar process, as Brad mentioned, haven't had to use it, but now that we're going to be basically fully staffed, we'll see what happens. Those T-bar potential may not be there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want us to be caught so off guard that again, it causes a major slowdown and that we're not being as efficient as possible. I would like to make sure that the appropriate authorities are there that we feel comfortable with. So that'll be a discussion for us to have. Any other questions, comments at this time before we actually need to go to public comment? I forgot about that piece, but
Just had one follow-up to your
Yeah.
questions there I like that process so you don't get held up for these, things that are a little bit over cost and so on. One way that maybe potentially to deal with that too is just annually or somewhere in there, just say, here's what I had to do. Just report it out.
Thank you, Schmidt Peterson. That's very, it's very intuitive for this board. The problem is that we don't get it approved through procurement if we didn't have that authority.
Oh, no, excuse me. That wasn't what I was trying to say. I mean, you have that authority, you go forward and do it, right? And then just periodically you come back and say, here's what we had to adjust.
I agree. Thank you.
yeah, I believe we get quarterly reports of budget adjustments and it's this lovely long list of a bunch of numbers and line items that are slightly out of context, but
Very meaningful, right?
it's very meaningful, extremely. Yes, thank you. I realized I missed the public comment portion, although I don't believe there's anybody here from the public, but is there any public comment on this item? Nothing. Oh. Okay, okay. Thank you so much. All right, any other questions, comments from the board? And if not, do we have a motion?
I will move to approve the proposed budget for fiscal year 2027 BDD operating budget and other fund contributions.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. May I please have a roll call?
Madam Chair, before you get to the roll call, can I just clarify that the motion does include the facilities manager's requested authority within the major repair and replacement fund?
That's a friendly amendment. I will make that a part of my motion. Thank you.
Does the second agree as well? Wonderful. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Big Alley.
Yes
Vote
to the,
yes.
yes to the
It-
item.
It has a little bit of a Jersey sort of like, if you say it like you're from New Jersey, it actually comes out right, it seems, but. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right, rolling along. Matters from the board. Does anybody have any matters today? No matters. In that case, our next meeting is Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, and we are adjourned at 4:40.